Why do my sugar cookies keep spreading? If you've ever asked yourself that question, you've come to the right place. Before we get into the perfect foolproof sugar cookie recipe, let's figure out, why do cookies spread? Problem 1, your butter is way too hot to begin with. Problem number 2, your oven is too cold. If your oven's too cold, the butter melts before the sugar cookie sets its shape. Problem number 3, your baking sheet is way too warm. If you don't let it cool in between batches, the fat's gonna hit it and immediately liquefy. Problem number 4, you're starting with cold eggs. Room temp eggs allow the butter to better emulsify. Fastest way to get them to room temp, pop them in a glass of water, give them about 5 minutes and they'll be good to go. And problem number 5, which I'm most guilty of, you don't have the patience to chill the dough after you cut out the cookies. So once you stamp out the shapes that you like, stick them in the fridge or freezer and allow that fat to solidify before they get into the hot oven. Now that we have all of the don'ts out of the way, let's get to the do's with my foolproof recipe. We're starting with, you guessed it, perfectly room temperature butter, which I'm adding to the bowl of my stand mixer. To the butter, I'm gonna add my sugar. And you'll always see in recipes, cream until light and fluffy. But what does that even mean? That means we're gonna beat the butter with the sugar until it's fully emulsified together. It's actually gonna change color and texture completely, so look for these key signs. Now don't forget to scrape down the sides of the bowl. This is arguably the most important part when it comes to creaming butter and sugar together. The very bottom of the bowl can trap some of those ingredients, so you want to give it a good stir to make sure everything gets mixed together. This is the perfect consistency. In go our room temp eggs. And we're going to beat between each addition. Splash of vanilla extract, but any extract works great. And it's time to move on to our dry ingredients. First up, our flour. Don't do that. We're not gonna ever stick our scoop into the flour because it compacts it and you're gonna get way more flour than you actually need for the recipe. Step 1, grab a spoon, aerate the flour, and then do the old spoon and level method. Aerated scoop into my measuring cup. Other side of the spoon. Baking powder, that's what's gonna help the cookies really puff up. And then last but not least, a pinch of kosher salt. We're gonna mix this just until combined. Again, scraping down sides as needed. This looks absolutely perfect, but coming a little closer, I wanna show you something about the bottom of these KitchenAid bowls. Look what I found hiding here in the bottom of our bowl. Butter and sugar that's not emulsified with the rest of the dough. And that's because the bottom of the beater doesn't touch the bottom of the bowl. So you really need to scrape to combine the dough. Fun fact, if you were to bake a cookie using the dough on the bottom of this bowl versus dough that's been mixed towards the top, you would get 2 wildly different cookies. Talk about why cookies spread. That's one of the main reasons right there. Let's get this dough wrapped up in plastic wrap. We're gonna chill it for at least an hour, and then we can talk about rolling out our cookies. Into the fridge we go. My dough is chilled, like really chilled. Now I'm gonna unwrap it and lightly flour my work surface before rolling out the dough. Just a light dusting, and then we're gonna add our dough. Now if at any point it gets too sticky, the flour is your friend. I like to start with a little bit on top so that our rolling pin doesn't stick. But here's a big problem that happens when you're rolling out your dough. This part's thin, this part's thick, this part's 1/2 inch, this part's 1 inch. It all bakes at a different rate. So how do we keep the entire piece of cookie dough the same level? These are gonna be your best friend. They're gonna serve as guides on the side of the dough so that your rolling pin has a height at which it's gonna hit equally on both sides. You could use wooden spoons. I've even used my kids' plates, anything that's the same thickness on both sides that you can roll over. And then we're just gonna lightly press from the center outward until we reach down to the bottom of those spatulas. You can also keep moving the spatulas as you get to different areas of the dough, just anything to kind of give you these bumper lanes of where your rolling pin's gonna hit. And I prefer a slightly thicker sugar cookie, so I'm going for about a 1/2 inch thick. Look at that, my entire dough is the same thickness. That tip alone is worth watching this entire video. Okay, lose the spatulas. Next up, cookie cutters. This works for any occasion, any holiday. You're gonna give yourself a little pile of flour right here on the counter. Before you stamp out anything with your cookie cutter of choice, you're gonna dredge it in the flour. And then press with medium pressure into the dough. Pick up, and you'll have a perfectly cut out cookie. Now, how do we get it from here onto there? A little light pressure, and it pops right out. The great thing about this dough too is once you've cut out all of your shapes, you can roll it all back together into a ball, roll it back out again with a little bit more flour, and then just keep on cutting out shapes. I've got some Christmas trees, some hearts, whatever you've got on hand. Now pop this whole tray in the fridge, or you could even put it in the freezer for at least 15 minutes so that that butter can re-solidify. Fully chilled cookies are going to go into my preheated oven, and we're only going to open it again when we rotate the pan halfway through because the heat circulates at different rates throughout the oven, and we want to make sure that our cookies bake evenly. My cookies are baked and they've fully cooled. Can we just have a moment for this absolutely stellar snowflake shape? So how do you go from this to this? Subscribe to find out.